Welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to create an Android plugin to do GraphQL subscription in Godot Game Engine. So if you don't know what GraphQL subscriptions are, it's basically like Socket.io or WebSocket to listen to real-time communication. So firstly I will show you an example over here. So I have one subscription running for my Node.js backend. So I'll quickly run this, and this gets fired every time a new user is added to my database. So I will try to add one new user. So suppose I add new user, keep an eye over here. So if I run this, here you can see the subscription data was printed whenever the new user was added, as well as if you see the mutation output, you can see this Ricky user was added as well. So this is what subscription basically are. So if I show you my Android output as well, I will connect my device. So over here also you can see Ricky as the output. Suppose if I try to add a new user as well, I will just to show you I will add something like hidden. Okay, and I'll quickly run this. I'll go back to my here output. So here you can see hidden was printed. Suppose I will try to add it from my Android device itself. Okay, but I have hard coded the username, so it is something called Murli. Okay, so if I click on add user, it will add user. If I click on the add user button, it will add a user mutation with the username of Murli. So if I click on add user, here you can see Murli was printed because it is continuously listening for the new user addition. And the get user button is just for getting the user query. So if you want, I can just print over here. You can see it prints the list of all the users. I have already made a video on queries and mutation of GraphQL for Godot Game Engine. This is mostly for subscription. So if last time I will show you once again. So suppose if I add something called Lee, okay, click over here, printed over here, as well as over here in the output also it was printed. So yeah, let's see how to do this. So firstly you will have to open Android Studio, create an Android Studio project. It can be an empty views project or a Jetpack Compose project, doesn't really matter. Then you will have to go to your project drop down over here. You will have to right click, new, module, Android library, give it some name. I will give it as my library, I guess that's fine. And you can change the package name as well, whatever you feel like. Then click on finish. I have already added it, so won't add it again. So this is my plugin or library. Next I will have to go to build.gradle.kts. Firstly, inside plugin I will have to add this Apollo version 3 plugin. At the time of the recording, Apollo 3 is the latest version, but Apollo 4 is in beta. You can, I think Apollo 4 also won't introduce any breaking changes as such, but if you face any issue for Apollo 4, do let me know in the comments and I will do my best to help you out. Next, you also have to add this bit of code over here. Okay, just copy paste this, but this you will have to change it according to your plugin package name. So here you can see your plugin package name, just replace it over here as well. Next, go down, add this for our Godot Game Engine. So I'm using Godot 4.2.1. if you are using some higher version, you can update it to the higher version as well. And you will have to add this Apollo Kotlin thing as well as a dependency. Then here you will see sync now button. Just click on it. As soon as you click on it, you might face an issue in the terminal saying that no schema GraphQL found. Okay, something like this. So for that you will have to run this bit of command. So I'll show you this command as well. So you'll just have to copy paste this command, paste it over here and click enter. So but before pressing enter, make sure you replace the endpoint with whatever is your backend port running on. So mine is running on localhost 4000. That's why I'm using this. Also over here, this should be your own plugin name or your package name. So mine plugins name was just my library, and it will be stored. That what basically it does is that it downloads that schemas.graphql files from your backend, and it stores inside this particular folder. Once you run this command, just click on sync now, and you should be able to download all this dependency. And if you go to the project drop down, you should be able to see, if you go to your my library, src main, it should create a GraphQL folder, and inside that you should be able to see the schemas.graphql. Then here I have added one add user mutation, which I have just copied it from the graphical interface. This is for get user mutation, and this is for subscription. So I have copied this as well. Also, if you want, you can go to Android settings, Android Studio settings, go to plugins. If you are curious, you can add this GraphQL plugin as well. It will just help you with all the IntelliSense part. Okay, once you add this GraphQL files according to your requirement, just click on this hammer icon. So what it does is that Apollo Kotlin will automatically do code generation for you according to the GraphQL files which you have added. Once you do that, I'll go to Android. I will go to this first I will create a file called simple user. So every like query, mutation as well as subscription gives me an output of ID and name. So I have created a simple data class for that. Next, I have created a user mapper class. So this is, I have already explained this in my previous video. This is for get user query and this is for add mutation. If you want to learn it, you can watch my previous video. I won't explain it again over here. Then I have created an interface. So this is for query, this is for mutation, and this is the new thing which is subscription. So it returns a response of flow of Apollo response get user subscription dot data. Again, this would differ for you depending on what you named your user subscription over here. Okay, so this is automatically generated via Apollo Kotlin. Once you define this method, you will have to create a class of Apollo user client which takes Apollo client and it extends user client. And I have overridden all the three methods. Again, I have explained this thing in my previous video, do watch that. And for subscription, all I am doing is that I'm just calling Apollo client dot subscription get user subscription dot to flow. Okay, once that is done, I will go to the Godot Android plugin. It extends Godot plugin as well as lifecycle owner. This is boilerplate code for lifecycle owner, and we require lifecycle because of coroutines. And here I am creating our Apollo client. Then I am creating our server URL as well. You will have to change localhost to your IP address if you are trying to run it on real device. Even for Android emulator, I don't think localhost will work. I think it is 10.2.2, but you can just Google it if your backend is hosted locally. Similarly for subscription as well, you don't have to write WS or WSS. HTTP will work. GraphQL is pretty smart on that, and I am using the GraphQL WS protocol because that is what I am using it on my backend as well. Then I am just building our Apollo client. Then I am constructing our Apollo user client by passing our Apollo client. Then over here I am defining our plugin. Okay, and here you can see I am defining our signal as well. Same signal I will use for queries as well as for subscription for sending data from Android side to the Godot side. And inside get users, as you can see, I am getting the users. This is for query, this is for mutation, and this is for subscription. So here you can see I am launching a coroutine. I am calling the user subscription method from our Apollo user client, and as soon as I collect any data, because this is this is Kotlin flow, I am getting the new user, and from that I am just getting the name and sending it back to the Godot side. Okay, I have already explained this part in my previous video, so watch that if you are curious. Next, inside Android manifest.xml, I have added internet permission. Also, I have added this application tag which I have just copied it from the Godot documentation. I have also added this uses clear text traffic because my Node.js backend is hosted locally. That's why I had to add this. Next, over here, this should be your own package name and this should be your plugin name. So if you forgot, this is your package name and this is your plugin name. You can name the plugin anything you want, but do remember the name. Okay, so that's how construct your Android manifest.xml. Next, go to project drop down. Inside your library, create a folder called export scripts template. Inside that, create a file called plugin.cfg. Again, this should be your plugin name. The description and author you can change whatever you feel like. Next, over here, create a file called export_plugin.jd. Again, I have copy pasted everything from the Godot documentation itself. This should be your plugin name. That is more important. Also, you will have to override this method get Android dependency. Firstly, we'll need to include coroutines as well as lifecycle runtime, because the Android build template does not have this. That's why we have to add this. Also, we'll have to add this Apollo 3 runtime library as well, because that's what we are using inside our build.gradle. Okay, so you'll have to add this. okay, and this is your file. Once you do that, you will have to open your terminal, cd to your main Android project. So I'll show you. So this is your Android project, so you will have to cd it over here, and you will have to run this command. So I'll show you that command as well. Where is that command? Okay, so this is the command /gradle assemble. Once you run this command, you can go to your Android project, my library, build, outputs, AAR, and here you should see 2 AAR files being generated. I have already copied those files to my Godot project. Next, just create your Godot project. Inside that, create a folder called add-ons. Next, create a folder with your plugin name. Next, inside that, create a folder called bin, and inside bin create 2 folders, debug and release. Now I have just copied the debug AR file to the debug folder and release AR file to the release folder. So if I go to my Godot project, add-ons, my plugins, bin, debug, and here you can see this is the debug AR file, but I have changed the name to whatever is your plugin name -debug.aar. Similarly for release folder as well, copy it and change the name to whatever is your plugin name -release.aar. Once you do that, inside your my plugin folder you will also have to copy this export plugin and plugin.cfg which we created inside our Android plugin. So just copy these 2 files as well. Next you will have to go to project, click on install Android build template. I have already done that. Then click on export, click add Android. At the bottom you might be seeing a button for fix import. Click on that, then check this use Gradle build option, and here you can select whatever Android architecture your Android device is running on. If you don't know, just select all 4 of this, then go to project settings, go to plugins, and make sure you check this checkbox as well. Once you do that, here inside UI I have just taken a VBox container with 2 buttons and a label, and over here this again should be, so I have attached one script to this. So this should be your plugin name, and inside on ready, as you can see, I'm initializing our plugin as well as connecting our get user signal, as well as I'm calling the listen for subscription method as well. And on first button press, I'm just calling this add user mutation. Second button press, I'm just getting the get users query, and once we get a signal, we are just updating our label. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.